Cooper Kupp is going to be the consensus wide receiver 1 off of most boards, and deservedly so. He literally just had an historic season. Keyword being historic. And while I don't expect that much of a drop-off, it's hard to replicate history. It's really, really difficult to replicate history. So I have Kupp. I'll just, full disclosure, I think Kupp is excellent and is outstanding and in a phenomenal situation. Just got a contract extension. He's locked in to have top 5 wide receiver potential for probably a minimum of the next 3 years. But I have him as my wide receiver 2. And I have a player you can't even call him ascending anymore. He's just that guy, number 1. And I've been pounding the table for the Vikings all year, and I'm just going to put my money where my mouth is. I have Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1 for 2022. Burst onto the scene as a rookie with 1,400 receiving yards on 88 catches, almost 16 yards a catch. Bested all of those numbers, well, not the yards per catch, but bested the catches by 20, bested his yards in his second season by 200. Of course, the extra game helps, but still upped his numbers across the board, went from 7 touchdowns to 10. And the Vikings underwent a complete regime change this year, where they changed their front office. They brought in an analytics mind as far as their general manager. Their head coach comes from the Rams coaching tree. You just by nature have to feel good about that. All they did was just win the Super Bowl, putting up huge numbers in the passing game. And so to that point, the offense is going to transition away from the ancient Mike Zimmer run the ball, then throw the ball on third down, maybe on offense too. They're gonna open it up more. I think there are multiple Vikings that are in for career seasons. Justin Jefferson has already had a phenomenal start to his career. Now he's in his 3rd season, age 23. This is where we really start to see players start to blossom kind of across the board in general. And I think it continues. I think Jefferson's in for a massive year. He is my 101 coming into the 2022 season.
And I wrestled with this because conventional wisdom is, the Cooper Kupp just finished with possibly the best season of wide receivers ever had. Yeah, maybe how are you going to fade him and put him fade out parentheses? But how are you going to fade him and put him
quote
number
unquote
2?
Right. Yep.
After finishing number 1 in overall finish and in points per game last season.
Yeah.
On top of just the overall raw stats that he put up. Insane.
Yeah.
But I think I got to put Justin Jefferson here too. Because this is a team that lost Ty Conklin, replacing him with Irv Smith. So from a target distribution perspective, nothing lost there in Jefferson's favor. But they also didn't bring in a wide receiver in this past year's draft outside of a wide receiver they drafted in the 5th round.
Jalen Naylor.
Jalen Naylor, right. And he is not he's expected to compete with KJ Osborne for the 4th spot along with Amir Smith-Marset.
Yeah,
so this is not somebody who drafted in the 5th round is projected to threaten Justin Jefferson's target distribution or snap share or anything. Locked in, it's Jefferson and Thielen locked into 2 wide sets, and that's not going to change. Nope. To your point about the coaching staff, huge coaching staff boost.
They're going 3 wide a lot this year. Book it.
3 wide, pace of play should be through the roof. So just based on that.
Yep.
And Justin Jefferson, I believe Justin Jefferson was number 2 in air yards last year.
I think that
and
is
now
correct.
They are opening up the offense.
Yep.
And didn't bring in anybody.
Nope.
To take away targets away from Justin Jefferson.
Nope. It's just Adam Thielen returning, who has already been
Cook
there.
is a year older.
Cook is a year older, coming off ankle injuries, who we still like, but is maybe he's used a little bit more as a receiver, Cook. But I mean, you're talking about Jefferson entering his age 23 season, coming off a 167 target season. I have to believe he's got a 150 target floor. And that's probably being conservative given the expectations we have for this Vikings offense.
In the
I'm
first
very
2
bullish
years
in general
of his career, he was 9 in points per game in 2020 and 4th in points per game in 2021. He has yet to finish outside of the top 10 in his career.
As a 21 and a 22-year-old.
Right, that's just insane.
He's excellent.
I love Cooper Kupp. We'll talk about him next.
Yep, we will.
But, I mean, there's no way I can put Justin Jefferson anywhere other than first.
I'm
in
very high on Justin Jefferson.
And in Dynasty. He's my wide receiver 1.
He's the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, and that's a much easier, argument to be made for Dynasty. Obviously, Kupp has a much stronger argument for 2022 redraft to be number 1. I'm just incredibly bullish on it's twofold. I'm incredibly bullish on Jefferson, and while we have Cooper Kupp ranked number 2, I don't really have that much more to say on Jefferson. I think he's excellent. I do have Kupp ranked number 2. And I understand it feels a little disrespectful, and there's probably people who are just like, I'm already tuning you out for not having Kupp ranked number 1.
There's variance year to year. You look at what happened in 2020, Cooper Kupp finished as the wide receiver 27. In 2019, that was the wide receiver 4 overall. So we know that he can put up, and speaking to the choir, insane years.
Yeah.
But to your point that you mentioned earlier before you even brought up Justin Jefferson, it's hard to repeat in fantasy.
It's hard to repeat history, too.
There you go.
That's the key thing. Kupp had a season for the ages. When you factor in the playoffs, this argument has been made on Twitter multiple times. Kupp outpaced like a Jerry Rice type of season as far as the numbers that he put up. 145 catches. Almost 2,000 receiving yards, 1947. That's a year that's not so long ago. And 16 touchdowns. That's just the regular season. On 191 targets. Phenomenal. Unbelievable numbers. Unbelievable numbers that are going to be unbelievably difficult to duplicate. Not to mention, obviously, yes, it's like season, like over the duration of a season, it's hard for defenses to make in-season adjustments that way. Don't you think, and again, I still have Kupp ranked number 2 overall. I'm not expecting that much of a drop-off as far as him being an incredibly safe option at the wide receiver position. But he's going to be double covered on every play, and he's probably going to be triple covered a lot.
You could say the exact same thing about Justin Jefferson. That's not factoring into my analysis here. Because with any of the top 3 guys, you can talk about, and really the top 2, because they don't have target competition or legit target competition like Jamar Chase does, who has a secondary wide receiver in the same offense, firmly in our top 12. But, I mean, Jefferson, he's got Thielen, and Cooper Kupp, he's got now Allen Robinson. Yes, their presence opens up the field for the other people in their offenses, but I don't care that Cooper Kupp is going to be double covered and triple covered. It didn't matter last year.
It didn't matter last year. It might matter more this year when he is the clear-cut, bona fide, with a
he
full
was the
clear-cut,
bona fide wide receiver 1 last year.
With a full off-season to prepare for it.
Yeah, but I'm not going there.
As opposed to week to week. I'm
not going there. Halfway through the season.
Splitting hairs. That's like my point.
Halfway through the season, Robert Woods went down. Odell Beckham came in off of an injury from another team. Didn't know the playbook, whatever. So the opposing defense's playbook was stop Cooper Kupp. We can handle Odell. What happened?
He had a very good season.
They didn't stop Cooper Kupp. Odell still had a decent, great touchdown numbers.
Yeah, he had really good touchdown numbers.
I don't think you can cover him. I'm not going to put coverage in the detractor column for Cooper Kupp. I just think
bringing up that it's another factor that might work more against Kupp's fit. And again, we're still talking about like a 1,500-yard season. Just that it might be more of a factor when you literally make history.
He was number 1 in
that's what Kupp
targets,
did.
obviously. In target share, he was number 1 across the league. In snap share, he was number 1 across the league. In routes run, he was 5. In red zone targets, he was number 1. He was the number 1 red zone targeted red zone wide receiver. Not going to change. I don't think that's going to change.
No, it won't. It won't.
The yards after catch might change. The being number 1 in receptions maybe might change, but all these metrics, man,
he could threaten that. Like, let's
all
put it
these
this
metrics.
way.
I'm not thinking, oh, triple coverage is going to stop
saying
those numbers
that it
from
could be
occurring
more
once again.
of a factor when you make history. That's all I'm saying.
Fair.
Because we're talking about, like, the potential for a drop-off could still be 100 catches and 15 yards, or 1,500 yards. Like, that would still be a phenomenal season. But because it's so difficult to duplicate history, I have Kupp number 2, and I have Jefferson number 1.
And we love the new coaching staff in Minnesota. But basically what we're hoping from the coaching staff in Minnesota is that they look like the coaching some sort of you know what I mean? Some sort of version of the Rams coaching staff where all they do is pass. Yeah, they mix in the run a little bit, but pretty much all they do is pass. When they're up by 30 points, all they do is pass. Number 1 in pace of play in the league. Like, that's not changing. So the targets, just based off of the pace of play, the routes run probably isn't gonna change. The target rate probably isn't gonna change. The air yards probably not gonna change. I'm looking at a lot of these metrics where he finished top 3, top 4, even number 1. I don't see them changing all that much.
Yeah, it's hard to anticipate those numbers changing that much. But to your point that you made just a short while ago, variance has happened with Cooper Kupp's career to this point. Now, there's much more stability with Matthew Stafford there.
I don't even know if we're really what point are we arguing? Because we both
just
we both agree
it's really
that
just
he's
one. It's one
2.
versus 2. It's 1 versus 2 as it pertains to Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
that's the argument, or that's the debate. It's not an argument.
I don't even think we're arguing, though. We agree.
No.
We have them in the same exact spot.
We're just loudly yelling.
Basically.
Well, not that there's such a thing as softly yelling. We're loudly talking.
But, yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp is going to be amazing. Age 29 season, so he's not quite hit that cliff. And he's a wide receiver that started his career at age 24. So he has a little bit longer of a shelf life, I believe, than some of these other wide receivers, just by the nature of he came into the league a little later, less wear and tear.
Oh, he's a technician at the position. He's not like, he's a good athlete. He's not necessarily he's relying on his knowledge of the route tree, his connection with Stafford that he clearly developed very quickly. And just, insane advanced, production from every literal advanced metric that you look at. I have him number 2, and maybe this is unfair just only because of how difficult it is to duplicate history, because that's literally what he had, was an historic season. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I have him in the same spot as you.
And he's still a wide receiver.
I don't think he's
going to
take
overall.
much of a... It's hard to say he's not going to take much of a step back. But, I mean, I'm looking at him, and can he get to 1,700 yards? I think that's... Yeah.
I mean, I was saying
200 short of where he was
floor.
last year. But if he gets to 1,700 yards, there's a chance he's leading the league in yards. Like,
I would say it's a very good chance, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I have him at wide receiver 2, just like you. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1. I think we've spoken enough about both of those top 2 guys.